Have you ever stood in your garden looking at your plants and wondered, why aren't they thriving? You've read the blogs, watched the YouTube videos, and followed all the common gardening tips, yet your plants are still struggling. What's going wrong? It's frustrating, isn't it? The truth is, there are 7 deadly mistakes that could be silently killing your plants. Mistakes that most gardeners don't even realize they're making. And I'm willing to bet you've heard all of these tips before, but maybe you've ignored them or didn't think they were that important. Well, today I'm going to show you the uncommon truths that will totally change the way you approach gardening and finally give your plants the care they deserve. So stick around, because the secrets I'm about to share might just be the game changer your garden has been waiting for. Welcome back to Garden Homes, where we provide expert gardening advice for all your green thumb needs. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned pro, we're here to ensure your garden flourishes. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for weekly tips. Today, I'm going to break down the 7 most common and most deadly garden mistakes. You might have heard about some of these, but I bet you've never heard them explained this way before. Let's dive in, and at the end, I'll show you a simple strategy to avoid all these pitfalls and finally get your plants thriving. Mistake number 1, overwatering. Everyone talks about overwatering, right? You've probably heard a million times that it's bad for your plants. But what if I told you that overwatering isn't just about drowning your plants? It's much more insidious than that. When you overwater, it doesn't just leave your plants sitting in soggy soil, it actually alters the pH levels of the soil. And here's the kicker. This change in pH leads to nutrient lockout. What does that mean? Well, your plant could be thirsty, yet it can't actually take up the water or nutrients it needs. Imagine your plant trying to drink from a well, but the water's all blocked up. That's exactly what happens when the soil pH gets messed up. Your plant might be screaming for water, but it's completely unable to absorb it. And I'm willing to bet that you're probably not checking the soil pH before you water. Most people don't. It's an easy thing to overlook, but it's a huge mistake. Take a look at this plant right here. Notice how the leaves are yellowing even though the soil is wet? It's a classic sign of nutrient lockout caused by overwatering. The soil might be soggy, but that doesn't mean the plant is getting what it needs. In fact, too much water is blocking essential nutrients from reaching the roots. The plant's hungry, but it just can't get the food it needs. So, what can you do to fix this? It's simple. Before you water, always check the moisture level in the soil and make sure you're not overwatering. You can do this by sticking your finger in the soil or using a moisture meter. But here's where most people get it wrong. Don't stop there. You also need to check the pH of the soil. If the pH is off, whether it's too acidic or too alkaline, it can cause the same nutrient lockout. In that case, you'll need to amend the soil with the right soil conditioner to bring the pH back to the optimal range for your plants. It's a small step, but it can make all the difference. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had a plant that seems thirsty, but no matter how much you water it, it keeps dying? Drop a comment below and let me know what you think. Maybe it's not the watering at all, but something deeper. It could be the pH, or something else entirely. Let's talk about it. Mistake number 2, the wrong plant for your space. When we think about choosing the right plant for our home, we often focus only on one thing: sunlight. We all know that plants need light to thrive, but here's something you might not realize. Temperature and humidity play just as big a role. In fact, certain plants can get seriously stressed out by the exact temperatures and humidity levels in your house. Take succulents, for example. Yes, they love bright light, but they're very particular about temperature consistency. If your home's temperature fluctuates too much, you could be pushing your plants into stress mode without even knowing it. That's right, your plant might be in the perfect spot for sunlight, but if it's right next to an air conditioner or heater, you're actually creating an environment that's way too harsh for it. And that stress, it'll show in your plant's health. It can lead to wilting, dropping leaves, and even stunted growth. So, before you pick a plant for a spot in your home, make sure you're thinking about more than just sunlight. Consider the temperature too. Take a look at this succulent right here. It's looking pretty sad, right? Now, it's getting plenty of light, but notice how it's right next to a heater. You might think it's getting a perfect environment, but in reality, the temperature is swinging wildly between hot and cold, which is putting the plant under a lot of stress. Succulents are particularly sensitive to this, and as you can see, it's causing the plant to wilt and lose its vibrancy. The extreme temperatures are making it hard for the plant to absorb water properly, and it's slowly getting weaker. So what can you do to fix this? It's simple. Before you put a plant in a spot, do your research. Plants like succulents love sunlight, but they can't stand drastic temperature changes. If you've got them near an air conditioner or heater or in a drafty spot, it's time to move them. Find a place that's stable, where the temperature doesn't fluctuate much, ideally between 60 and 85 degrees Fahrenheit for most succulents. If you're not sure where to put them, a good rule of thumb is to keep them away from anything that causes temperature changes, like radiators, air vents, or windows that get very cold in the winter. Once you find the right spot with consistent temperatures and bright indirect light, you'll see your plant start to thrive again. Now, I'm curious, what's the weirdest plant location you've tried in your home? Maybe it was next to a window or under a ceiling fan. How'd it work out for you? Drop your stories in the comments below. Let's see if we've all been making the same mistakes.
Mistake number 3, ignoring drainage. Let's talk about drainage. Most gardeners know that plants need drainage holes in their pots, right? That seems obvious. But here's where the problem sneaks in. Most of us stop there. We put our plants in plastic pots with drainage holes and think, great, water will just flow out. But that's only part of the story. Even with holes, poor drainage can silently destroy your plants. How? The soil at the very bottom of the pot can still stay waterlogged, creating a soggy environment where roots literally start to rot. Root rot is sneaky. It doesn't always show up immediately. One day your plant looks fine, the next day it's wilting or yellowing. And that's not because you're watering too much on the surface, it's because the water has nowhere to go down there at the bottom. That stagnant layer traps moisture and suffocates your roots, starving them of oxygen. And trust me, no amount of care or fertilizer can save a plant once the roots have started rotting. Check out this poor plant. At first glance, it looks like it's just a little droopy. But if you dig a bit, you'll see the roots are dark, slimy, and starting to decay. The surface soil might feel dry, and you might even think you're watering perfectly, but the roots are drowning down below. That's the silent killer we're talking about. It's one of the most common mistakes that even experienced gardeners make because it's not obvious until it's too late. So, how do you fix this? The answer is simple, but it makes a huge difference. Before you add soil to your pot, place a layer of gravel, small stones, or broken pottery pieces at the bottom. This creates a space where water can freely flow instead of sitting in one spot. Then add your soil on top. This little step ensures that the roots have a constant supply of oxygen and aren't trapped in soggy soil. And here's a pro tip. Avoid compacting the soil too much when planting. Loose soil helps water flow and prevents those nasty pockets of trapped moisture. Trust me, your roots will thank you and your plant will thrive like never before. I want to hear from you. How do you handle drainage in your pots? Have you ever had a plant mysteriously die even though you thought you were watering it correctly? Share your stories or tips in the comments below. I'd love to know the drainage hacks you've discovered the hard way. Mistake number 5, over-fertilizing. Here's a mistake that so many gardeners make, over-fertilizing. We all know that plants need food to grow, and so we assume that feeding them regularly is the best way to encourage big, healthy growth, right? Well, not exactly. What if I told you that giving your plants too much fertilizer can actually harm them? That's right. Excess fertilizer doesn't make your plants stronger. It can burn their roots, damage their tissue, and even cause nutrient imbalances. And here's the kicker. When plants grow too quickly from too much fertilizer, they often end up weak and fragile. They might look great for a while, but this rapid growth can leave them more vulnerable to pests and diseases because their root systems haven't had time to develop properly and support all that new growth. So, more fertilizer isn't always better. Sometimes it's actually worse. Take a look at this plant. At first glance, it looks like it's just a little droopy, but if you dig a bit, you'll see the roots are dark, slimy, and starting to decay. The surface soil might feel dry, and you might even think you're watering perfectly, but the roots are drowning down below. That's the silent killer we're talking about. It's one of the most common mistakes that even experienced gardeners make because it's not obvious until it's too late. So, how do you fix this? The answer is simple, but it makes a huge difference. First, stop feeding your plants so often. Plants don't need constant feeding. They need food during their growing season, not year-round. For most plants, this means spring and summer when they're actively growing. During fall and winter, they enter a dormant phase and don't require nearly as much fertilizer, if any at all. When you do fertilize, make sure you're using the right kind of fertilizer for your plant type and diluting it to the correct concentration. Too much fertilizer at full strength can easily harm your plant. Remember, it's better to feed less often than to overdo it. A little fertilizer goes a long way, and it's always safer to under-fertilize than to risk burning your plant. I'm curious, what's your fertilizing routine like? Do you have a specific schedule, or do you just feed whenever you think about it? Let me know in the comments. And if you've ever accidentally over-fertilized a plant, I want to hear about it. Maybe you've learned the hard way. Share your tips and experiences with us. Mistake number 5. Poor soil quality. When we think about soil, we often focus on whether it's loose, fluffy, or well-draining. But here's something you might not have considered. Soil quality goes far beyond texture. Did you know that the wrong soil can seriously impact your plant's ability to absorb nutrients, even if you're watering properly? You see, soil pH is a critical factor that many gardeners overlook. Some plants need soil that's slightly more acidic, while others thrive in alkaline conditions. If your soil's pH isn't right for your plant, it can prevent the plant from taking up essential nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, or potassium, no matter how much you water or fertilize. So while you might think you're doing everything right, the soil itself could be holding your plants back without you even knowing it. Take a look at these two plants. On the left, we have a healthy, vibrant plant that's growing in rich, well-balanced soil with the right pH for its needs. Notice the deep green leaves, the sturdy stems, and the overall vitality. Now, look at the plant on the right. It's struggling. The leaves are yellowing, the growth is stunted, and it just looks unhappy. Why? It's in soil that's either too acidic or too alkaline for its needs. Even though it's getting the same amount of water, nutrients aren't being absorbed properly because the pH is off. This is a classic example of how poor soil quality, specifically the wrong pH, can seriously damage your plants no matter how much you try to care for them. So, what's the fix? First, you need to test your soil's pH. It's a quick and easy process with a simple pH testing kit, which you can find at most garden centers or online. Once you know where your soil's pH stands, you can adjust it as needed. Some plants, like blueberries or azaleas, need more acidic soil, while others, like cacti and succulents, thrive in alkaline conditions. If you find your soil is too acidic or too alkaline, you can amend it by adding the appropriate soil conditioners. For example, if your soil is too acidic, you can add lime to raise the pH. If it's too alkaline, sulfur can help lower it. And once you've got the right soil, don't forget that some plants, like orchids, need very specific types of soil with excellent drainage and organic matter, so always check what your plant specifically requires.
I'd love to know, what kind of soil are you using for your plants? Have you ever had an issue with poor soil quality affecting your garden? Maybe you've learned some tricks along the way to improve your soil. Drop your experiences or tips in the comments below. I'm sure others will find your advice helpful. Mistake number 6. Too much or too little light. Here's something that may surprise you. It's not always about bright indirect light. In fact, some plants thrive in lighting conditions you might not expect. For instance, did you know that some houseplants, like ferns, actually prefer low light and can get burned if they get too much direct sunlight? That's right. We often assume that every plant needs tons of sunlight to grow strong, but that's just not true for every species. Plants like ferns, peace lilies, and some types of ivy are adapted to shadier environments, and if you expose them to direct sunlight, you're doing more harm than good. The leaves can scorch, turn yellow, or even die back completely. So next time you're deciding where to place your plants, remember, more light isn't always better. Take a look at this fern here. It looks pretty sad, doesn't it? The leaves are crispy and brown and the edges are all curled up. Now this plant was actually in a sunny spot. It was getting too much sunlight. Even though ferns thrive in humid, shaded environments, I thought it would benefit from some bright, indirect light. But as you can see, that was a huge mistake. The direct sunlight caused the leaves to burn, and the plant started deteriorating quickly. So the key takeaway here is that just because a plant is green doesn't mean it can handle a lot of sunlight.
Each plant species has its own light preferences, and ignoring them can cause serious damage. So, how can you avoid this mistake? First and foremost, do your research. Know whether your plant needs direct sunlight or if it thrives in low or filtered light. For example, if you've got a fern, place it in a spot where it gets bright, indirect light, like near a north-facing window or a spot with light shade. If you're caring for a succulent, on the other hand, it will likely need at least 6 hours of direct sunlight a day. So, before you pick a place for your plants, take the time to understand their specific light needs. And here's a helpful tip. If you're not sure about the lighting in your home, try to observe how the light changes throughout the day. This will help you understand the environment your plants will be exposed to, and you can place them accordingly. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever burned a plant from too much sun? Or maybe you've learned how to master low-light plants. Let me know in the comments and share your tips for getting your plants' lighting just right. Let's swap stories and help each other keep our plants happy and healthy. Mistake number 7. Neglecting seasonal adjustments. Here's a mistake that even seasoned gardeners often make, forgetting that plants don't stay static. They change with the seasons, just like everything else. And this is especially important when it comes to indoor plants. Did you know that many indoor plants, especially tropical varieties, actually need a rest period in winter to recharge? That's right, just like us, plants need their own version of a vacation during the colder months. If you don't adjust your watering and light routines during the winter, you're unknowingly stressing your plants out. In nature, many plants slow down in winter, entering a sort of dormancy to conserve energy. But when we keep treating them like it's summer year-round, we end up pushing them past their limits, which can cause all sorts of problems, especially with water and light levels. Take a look at this plant here. Notice how it's looking a little off. The leaves are starting to yellow and the stems are becoming weak. The issue here is that this plant is still getting the same amount of light and water as it did during the warmer months. But with the lack of sunlight in winter and the cooler temperatures, this plant is essentially being overfed and overstimulated. Too much water in the cold months can lead to root rot, and too much light can shock the plant's system. Plants need a break during the winter, and overwatering or overexposing them to light can make them even more vulnerable to stress, pest invasions, and diseases. So what's the solution here? Simple. During the colder months, you need to reduce your watering. Plants need less water in winter because they're not growing as rapidly. Let the top few inches of soil dry out before you water again. For most plants, watering once every 2 weeks is plenty during this time. And don't forget about light. If your plant is used to bright light during the summer, but now the days are shorter, it's time to adjust. Move your plant to a place where it gets more indirect sunlight, or consider supplementing with a grow light if you don't have a good natural light source. Also, check for seasonal dormancy. Many plants naturally slow down in winter, and they don't need the same level of care or attention as they do during their active growing season. Let them rest and recharge. They'll thank you in the spring with healthy new growth. Now I want to know, how do you adjust your plant care routine for the winter months? What are some of your best tips for seasonal gardening? Drop them in the comments below and let's share our best tricks for getting through the colder months with happy, healthy plants. So let's quickly recap everything we've covered today. We talked about 7 deadly garden mistakes, from overwatering and poor drainage to improper light and soil quality. But here's the good news. All of these mistakes can be fixed with just a little bit of awareness and some simple adjustments. Whether it's reducing the water in winter, giving your plant a break during the dormant season, or checking the pH of your soil before you water, making these small changes will ensure your plants live long, healthy lives. You'll stop making those same mistakes that could be costing you their growth and health. If you found these tips helpful, I'd love for you to give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications so you never miss out on more plant care tips. Now I want to hear from you. What gardening mistakes have you been making, and which one are you going to be fixing today? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to know what challenges you faced and how you're going to turn things around for your plants. Remember, small changes can lead to big results, and together we can make our gardens thrive. Thanks for watching, and remember, happy gardening starts with knowing what not to do. See you in the next video.